I am Megan, and I am 35 years old, and I am working as a researcher. I don't have any special skills, but I have been studying hard since I was a child. I got married a year ago. We don't have any children. I reunited with my husband, Chris, at our high school reunion, and we started dating. In high school, he was a heartthrob, good-looking, stylish, athletic, and he was the captain of the football team. He stood out in his class. He even had a fan club from another school, and all the girls in the class liked him. Of course, I was one of them. However, I was never the one to stand out, and I think I only had a few conversations with him in high school. I thought he was someone who lived in a different world than mine.
Hey, Megan! I didn't recognize you. You look great!
I remember how happy I was when he approached me. It felt like I was back in high school again. I think I had more conversations there than I did in the 4 years of high school. I love to travel, and Chris's hobby is to travel also, so we were talking non-stop about it. Since just talking at the reunion wasn't enough, we made a plan to meet each other, and from then on, we started to date. For his age, Chris aged well, and he still sparkled just like when he was in high school. According to Chris, he works in sales for a small business. I was very happy and enjoyed my time spending with Chris for a year. Then we decided to get married. In that year, we traveled a lot. Since we are at a perfect age to get married, it was only natural for us to decide on getting married to each other. Being with Chris always made me feel like I was up in the air. However, I was only happy until I got married to him. I love Chris, but I was not a fan of my sister-in-law, Victoria. Victoria has been divorced twice, and right now, she is in our neighborhood, living all on her own. She has experience in modeling and is so beautiful that it is hard to believe that she is in her 40s, even though her personality is not exactly beautiful. I found out after I got married to Chris, but I think Chris loves his sister. I think he loves her a bit too much. His parents have moved since he graduated from high school, and the parents-in-law live very far away. My parents-in-law are very kind and gentle people, so when I went to greet them, they were very gracious and hospitable with me. Since Victoria and Chris were late-borns, maybe the parents-in-law has spoiled them a bit too much. I have only met my parents-in-law on the day I visited to greet them, but we have a very good relationship with occasional phone calls. Victoria was not there when I greeted her parents, so this was my first time the three of us had dinner together after Chris and I got married. Since she was very beautiful, when I saw her for the first time, I couldn't stop staring at her. But then, when she spoke to me, this ruined my good impression of Victoria. Huh? I thought you were a sucker for beautiful girls. When she saw me for the first time, she questioned Chris by saying that. I could only laugh it off. Chris didn't really deny what Victoria has said about me, and he started to compare Victoria and I, and made fun of me, being a very different person from when he is with me alone.
Now that you have such a beautiful sister, Megan, You should learn how to be beautiful from her. Victoria works very hard to stay beautiful. Learn a lot from her. While Victoria is a formal model, Megan is a researcher. What a plain job.
Chris has never made any comments about my appearance, nor of my work when we were together alone. I don't know if it was because of the alcohol or the presence of Victoria, but of course, I didn't feel great about it. I think my face was twitching for the whole time when I was with them. I wanted to cry. Hearing what Chris has said, Victoria just looked happy and was looking very proud about it to me. You guys are a brother and sister, but Chris and I are a married couple. We have a completely different relationship, so Victoria shouldn't have that kind of look to my face. But I just smiled and thought that if I endured it just for a few more hours, this will be all over soon. After we got home, I said to my husband, "What you said today to Victoria about me, wasn't it too horrible?" I was about to cry. When I said that to him, he didn't hear me and just said,
Victoria is my pride and joy. Wasn't she beautiful?
He was speaking such nonsense. I was just stunned and couldn't say anything back to him. Since then, Victoria started to visit us at our house frequently. After my work, I bought food for dinner and hurried home to find Chris and Victoria eating dinner. It seems like Victoria cooked the dinner. The dinner looked like it was very stylish and healthy. I thought it was strange because my husband and I were supposed to be home around the same time, so I asked him about it, and he told me that he had given Victoria the copy of the key.
The dinner will be prepared before you get back home. Isn't it great? You don't have to go through the burden to cook.
Chris says this, but Victoria cooks just enough for the two of them, but barely leaves some for me. I don't know Megan's likings, and I was afraid she won't enjoy it, so I only left small amount for you. Besides, you need to lose some weight anyways, so everything is fine, right? She said that she left a few, but she only leaves me about one bite of what she cooks. Chris doesn't realize this and just enjoys eating her food.
Even if Megan tried for 100 years, she won't be able to cook like you, Victoria.
He said this as he laughed. Victoria left quickly right after eating without cleaning up. After Victoria uses the kitchen, it always seems like a storm directly hit our kitchen. After cleaning up the mess Victoria has left behind, I cooked my own dinner and ate. Victoria comes over to our house every day now, so even when my coworkers supports me to finish early to go home since I was a newlywed, I deliberately started to do more of the overtimes. Then one day, I had a realization. Chris and I each have one credit card that we use for living expenses. However, this credit card was overcharged, so I checked my bill statement and I found that several $100s worth was being frequently used at a high-end supermarket. Since Chris does not cook at all, I don't think he is the one who is going to the high-end supermarket. I thought it must have been Victoria's doing, so I questioned Chris, but he said,
We're family, why not? Since I am the one eating, this is well counted as our living expense.
He just replies that and does nothing about this situation. I didn't like Chris when he is with Victoria, because no matter what I say, Chris always takes Victoria's side. But I love Chris when he is not around Victoria. Other than the topic of Victoria, he would listen and hear me out what to say, so I love spending the time with Chris when Victoria is not around. One day, we were planning a domestic trip for our wedding anniversary. We had talked about wanting to go to this certain place someday since we were dating. Since we have made this plan to go on the trip for a couple months now, I have been looking forward to it. Even though I was irritated with Victoria and Chris when they were together, I was able to put up with them because of this trip. Chris was also excited about this trip, and he told me that he was able to book the Hilton to stay. Chris and I also took the paid leave and got on the airplane and arrived at the destination. During the flight, we had some wine, checked the guidebook, and was planning the trip out. I enjoyed our time alone so much. After getting off the airplane, we visited many touristy spots and took many photos. I felt like we were back in our lovey-dovey times, and I was just very happy. In the afternoon, we have arrived at the Hilton. Since Chris wasn't checking in and was trying to head to the elevator, I said, "Hey, wait! We need to check in." I stopped Chris from heading to the elevator. Since we had few drinks, I think it's cute of Chris that he got a bit too drunk and forgot to check in. But then, to his response, I was very surprised.
Don't worry, the check-in is already done.
I didn't understand what he was saying, but when we arrived at our room, Victoria was there. She was drinking the coffee and nuts from our hotel room. "What? Why are you here?" I said it with a very loud voice. Victoria said, "What? I can't be here? I wanted to come with you guys from the morning, but I had to run some errands, but now I'm done with the errands. I am here." She responded with a smile on her face. Chris invited Victoria to this trip behind my back. I didn't have the energy to get mad at Chris anymore. This time, I cannot forgive him anymore. With a grumpy face, I was just silently checking my phone out. Without any care to me, Chris and Victoria toured the hotel and discussed where they will be going tomorrow with excitement. After a while, Chris finally noticed that I was silent, so he panicked and said,
The dinner seems extravagant. Before that, let's go to the gym and sauna to make ourselves hungry. Megan, go check out the sauna. Go with Victoria and have some fun.
My husband insisted, so I had no choice but to go to the sauna with Victoria. I didn't even want to hear Victoria's voice, so I tried not to talk to her. I couldn't help but to feel like this trip was ruined, and this was the trip I had been looking forward for months. It is a trip that is meaningful to me because this trip was for just the two of us as a married couple. So, Victoria being there is just an annoyance to me. Without speaking, I arrived at the sauna, and when I was undressing, my sister-in-law spoke to me. "Hey, did your personality become ugly too? Even though you are ugly, you smile, so I thought you were the better one out of the uglies. You are already ugly, so at least make yourself sociable." Are you talking about yourself when you say that my personality is ugly? I replied to Victoria. I couldn't take it anymore. Victoria froze because this was the first time ever I spoke back to her with such manner. Ignoring Victoria, I took my shower and went into the sauna. This was when I realized that she was gone. When I left the sauna and returned to my hotel, Victoria was crying and Chris was angry. Why do you look relaxed and refreshed? You bully. You should just go home now. Victoria screamed at me with a teary voice. She was so childish, it was too funny. Chris was glaring at me.
I heard you bullied my sister. Why would you do such thing? Bully doesn't have a right to enjoy this trip.
This is what Chris said to me. Next to my angry husband, Victoria made a face of "in your face," which Chris didn't notice. I think when she is in front of Chris, she's pretending that she is crying. I had no energy to say anything back to them. Fine, I'll go home. I wanted to go home anyways, even though I was the one who got bullied. I answered without any hesitation. I glared at my husband, but he just looked away. I was about to cry, but if I cried, I thought that would make me the loser, so I bit my lips and held the tears in. I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, so I packed my bags in a hurry. Purposely, in a loud voice, Chris said,
Here you go. Victoria, this is Megan and I's credit card. You can buy yourself anything from the shop. You can buy anything since Megan bullied you.
I pretended not to hear this and left the hotel and hopped on the last airplane. As soon as I got on the plane, the tears I held it in came pouring out of my eyes. I became sad when I was remembering how Chris would not listen to me, but only listened to Victoria and believed everything she said. To my husband, his sister was more important to him than his wife. I have always thought so, but this time I am convinced. I began to feel like an idiot and wasted my time for looking forward to this trip for several months. I was crying for a very long time. After I cried and let it all out, I decided that I didn't want to be family with them anymore. As soon as I got off the plane, I picked up my phone and called a certain place. Feeling somewhat liberated, I went to a grocery and bought many alcohols. As I got back home, I drank all the alcohols and was passed out without realizing. I was woken up because of the phone calls from Chris. It has been ringing a lot before I woke up, but since I was in my deep sleep, I couldn't notice them. Maybe I was just exhausted from yesterday. Even when I got out of the bed, the phone kept ringing, but instead of picking it up, I brushed my teeth. I didn't pick up his calls because I knew why Chris was calling me. When Chris and Victoria tried to check out from the hotel,
No way! Why is this happening? I was able to use this yesterday.
Are you joking me? I'm going to make a call.
I bet they had a conversation like this. The credit card Victoria took out to pay for the stay was denied, which as it should be. The phone call I made when I got off the plane was to the credit card company, and I stopped the credit card. My salary was double my husband's. I was paying for all of the living expenses. The credit card, which Chris has given Victoria, was charged to my bank account. I I have asked Chris to tip in for living expenses many times, but for this whole year, he never paid anything. The ownership of the credit card is me. I called the call center to inform them that I have lost my credit card, so I wanted it to be stopped. After ignoring the phone calls for a while, I picked up the phone and heard Chris and Victoria speaking in an angry manner, which I couldn't understand because they were also speaking very fast. I thought my eardrums were going to burst because he was screaming at me. He must have been in a great hurry. This is my credit card. Since I didn't stay at the hotel, I don't need to pay. I said it in a cheerful voice. As soon as I said that, he said,
I knew it was you. Stop joking around. What are you going to do about this? We can't go home.
He was shouting. Thinking about him shouting made me laugh. Why don't you do some work at the hotel to pay off for the stay? Oh, by the way, we're getting a divorce. Bye! As I said that, I hung up and turned off my phone. Then, I got ready, went to the bureau to pick up the divorce papers, and packed my husband's belongings. I was humming without realizing. By that time, I was no longer sad at all and was looking forward to being single again. Then, Victoria and Chris came home.
Don't be stupid. Do you know how embarrassed we were?
Wow, your personality is truly ugly. What you did was just so malicious. Did you enjoy humiliating us? You're just too horrible. From the entrance, they were both shouting and yelling at me. They were both angry as if they had forgotten that they had told me to leave and go home in the middle of the trip. I put on my calm face and answered, I don't care what you guys have to say anymore. We are getting a divorce, so sign this paper. As you wish, you two will be able to live together on your own. The two ignored me and started talking about the hotel fee. It's a suite room from the Hilton. The hotel fee is so pricey since they depended on my credit card to pay, they were unable to pay and asked the hotel to allow them to pay later. As he put the hotel bill in front of me, he says,
You should pay this?
This is billed to your name, Chris. Since Chris was the one who made the reservation, of course, the bill was billed under his name.
I can't pay such high fee.
That's because you didn't choose accordingly to your income. Since you haven't paid any expense fee at all, you should have some savings, right? Oh, wait a minute. You don't. You're still paying off your debts. I think you pretended not to hear me, so I will say it again. We are getting a divorce. I will also be compensating for alimony. When I was packing up his belongings, I found documents about his debts. The reason why he was so stubborn about not paying his living expenses was because of his debts. The amount exceeded $50,000. He was paying back the debt with most of his salary each month and borrowed some money to pay off the shortfall. He had been hiding this fact from me for this whole year we have been together. My husband has talked a lot about the trip he went on when we reunited at the reunion. Even though he was the same age as me, I traveled many more times compared to him, and he told me that he always only used business class for travel. When we got married and I found out about his income, I couldn't understand how he was able to have an extravagant trip, but then I understood that he made debts for it. This trip was also extravagant too, but it was dependent on my income. When Victoria heard about the debt, she was speechless with disbelief.
You have a horrible taste. You went through my documents? No way. I am not leaving. This is also my house. If you don't like it, you get out.
Huh? Don't you remember? This house is under my name. I packed all of your belongings for you, so get out. If you don't leave, I will call the police on you. When we rented the house, my husband gave me documents to fill it out with my name. I thought this was because I had a higher income than him, but it's because he was scared that he wouldn't get the house due to his debts. After hearing the word police, Chris and Victoria left the house with the divorce paper. When they were at the door leaving, I yelled at them, "I will be sending your belongings to Victoria's house. I hope you two will get along," I told them with a very loud voice. I didn't get any answer from them, but I felt so much better. After that, my husband was so broke that he tried to file a divorce settlement and asked for alimony, but his request was denied, and I was the one who got the alimony. It was quite ugly to see my husband telling many lies about what was and was not true, being very desperate for alimony in the divorce settlement. It was a moment that reminded me that people are not always about the outlook. I became single again. I continued to travel, and going to places on my own is my greatest refreshment in my busy life. I recently started dating a coworker from work. He may not be good looking, but he has a very nice personality. He has helped me many times since I joined the company, and I respect him a lot. Although I am not planning to get married yet, I am very happy now. He seems to have an older sister, so I am going to make sure to meet and get to know her before we get married. My name is Carol. I am 27 years old, who is working at a foreign affiliated company. I am about to go on an overseas training program today with my colleague and husband, Jeff. Jeff and I are same age and joined the company in the same year. We have been paired together ever since we were assigned to the same department when we joined the company. I can't explain, but we got along well and we worked very well together, so he was a perfect partner at work. Over the years of working together, we developed romantic feelings for each other and had become partners in private life as well. We got married 3 years ago, and we have been doing so well in our work and private life. We were able to work on a major project, which was a huge success to the company. Due to our huge success, our overjoyed upper management granted us an overseas training program of our choice for a week as a reward from the company. We had only been able to go on our honeymoon for one night in a nearby place because even for our honeymoon, we prioritize our work schedule. So for this overseas training, we decided to enjoy it as a honeymoon. While I was going through the check-ins of the airport, I was getting excited for the upcoming week. That's when my phone rang. I asked Jeff to do the check-in for me while I checked who was the caller. On my phone screen, an unrecognized number was being displayed. I contemplated about picking it up, but I decided to pick it up. When I picked up the phone,
Hey, Carol! Long time no talk.
When I heard this voice, which was full of energy, I knew I shouldn't have answered. I was planning to enjoy the overseas training program, but this phone just killed my enthusiasm. The person who called me was Ashley, Jeff's older sister, who is 30 years old. She is an outdoorsy wild woman who makes me wonder if she's really Jeff's sister. I hear another voice which belongs to Ashley's husband, Max. Max also is an outdoorsy person just like Ashley. When the two of them are together, nothing good will happen, so I wanted to avoid getting involved with them as much as possible. But I was the one who picked up the phone. I couldn't be mean to them, so I decided to tell them that I am in the middle of something and then hang up on them immediately. Anyways, I tried to quickly ask her what she wanted to talk about, so I said, "It's been a long time, Ashley. Is there something urgent?" I asked her in a hurry and she said,
Well, if you think about it, this could be urgent.
after she said that, she also told me that she used her friend's phone to call me because she thought that I wouldn't pick up if she called me with her number. Yes, I don't want to pick up Ashley's calls because I don't want her to waste my time talking unnecessary things. I was getting irritated by the fact that Ashley would just go on and on about hiking trip to a mountain which had been planned for the weekend was cancelled due to the bad weather, and now they do not know what to do with their free time. I wondered why she was telling me this, but since my boarding time is soon, I said, "If you're calling me to kill time, I have to go now. I am sorry, but I am very busy now." As soon as I was about to hang up, Ashley was asking me for a favor. As I was trying to hear her favor out, which was probably just another lame one, she questioned me if we recently moved into a house. From my in-laws, she heard that Jeff and I have moved into a house with a very spacious backyard. The land belonged to my maternal grandfather, who was in the landscaping business, but he was downsizing his business due to his age, so he gave me a piece of his land, which he would no longer use at a reasonable price, and I built a house there. That house was on the outskirts of a residential area with lots of nature, not too far away from the city. I didn't tell them about this house because I didn't want my obnoxious sister-in-law and her husband to barge in on me, but I guess they found out.
You should have told me you moved. I would have at least sent you a housewarming gift.
Ashley said something that was not from her heart. Shouldn't she know the reason why I didn't want to tell them about it? When I grew impatient because Ashley would not get to the point, then she said,
So, please do me a favor. Will you let me check out your spacious backyard?
I had a tremendously bad feeling about this when she told me this favor she was requesting for. I hope not, but is Ashley planning to barge in my backyard with the whole hiking group members? And what in the world is she planning to do in my backyard? Why our backyard, and what are you going to do with my backyard? When I asked her, she replied,
Well, I heard you have a big lawn, so I thought we could have a barbecue in your backyard with my hiking group members.
This is finally when she told me what favor she was asking for. Ashley said she will be preparing and bringing good meat for her hiking group members. And without me having any say in it, she started saying,
We might even set up tents and spend the night. I can't wait, and I am so looking forward to it.
As if I had already said yes to the favor, she said she's already looking forward to it. So to that, I said, Huh? What are you talking about? If you are planning to do a barbecue in my backyard with your hiking group members, it will cause a big burden to our neighbors. I am not allowing this, so I am not letting you use our backyard. After telling Ashley no to her favor, I also reminded her that Jeff and I would be going to an overseas training program for the upcoming week, so we will not be at home, which makes it absolutely impossible for Ashley and Max to even come over to our place in the first place. Normally, Ashley wouldn't give up easily and just annoys me until I say yes, but to this, she said,
Oh, really? So, you're going away for a week, huh? Okie dokie, I get it.
Although I felt somewhat weird and uncomfortable with my sister-in-law, who just backed off this easily with her favor, I ended the call with Ashley because it was my time to board on the plane. As I was boarding the airplane, Jeff was asking me,
Who was the phone call from? It seemed like a very long call.
Jeff was worried if I was in trouble with work because while I was on the phone, my facial expression was dubious. The call was from your sister, Ashley. I told Jeff details of the favor Ashley was asking and told him that I said no to it. Then he said,
I'm sorry I had to go through that. You have the right to tell her no because she and Max always causes us troubles.
As Jeff said this, he sighed. As experience from the past, we have been in a lot of trouble because of our involvement with Ashley and Max. When we bought a new car, they begged us to borrow the car, so we gave in and lent it. But as soon as they rode on it, they had totaled my car and they didn't even reimburse us for it. Since they don't even pay, I ended up having to replace the car with my own car insurance. When Ashley and Max forced us to go on a trip with them, Ashley and Max got too drunk that they had a fight with other guests at the hotel and made a huge mess, which they did not, but we, Jeff and I, cleaned up after. I still haven't received any of the reimbursement for the things that they destroyed at that time. Because of being with them, we also have been banned from countless hotels and restaurants, which we will never be able to go again. It has been nothing but a huge burden to us. Jeff and I decided that we would never again accept any invitations from my sister-in-law and her husband or get involved with them. After enjoying the view of clouds from the airplane, we arrived at the destination the next day. The weird and uncomfortable feeling I felt when I hanged up on Ashley lingered with me. But even Ashley wouldn't come over and use my backyard for the hiking group members while I'm away when I told her no, right? I think this feeling lingered because I was too tired from the jet lag, so I decided to relax and enjoy the sightseeing and focus on the training to forget about it. After a short rest at the hotel, we decided to tour around the hotel, shopped at the mall, and enjoyed the food we ordered at the restaurant. That night, since we were walking around all day long being very active, we were so exhausted that Jeff and I fell into a deep sleep early. I jumped and was woken up because my phone rang. I reached for my phone, which was placed on the night table, and picked up the phone. Good morning! It was my sister-in-law calling again. It's not good morning here. It's at middle of the night here. Don't you remember that I told you that I was going to the overseas training? Is she trying to annoy me for not letting her use my backyard? I knew it. There was no way Ashley would just listen to me and back off. Oh, hey, I forgot. Sorry. Since it's morning here, so it wasn't intentional. Really, she's the type of person for whom the words like sorry or unintentional doesn't fit at all. All of whatever she said sounds intentional and malicious. If Ashley was calling me just to annoy me, I should tell her off about it. So why are you calling at this hour? I asked bluntly. Take a guess, Carol. Where do you think I am? I don't know if she was coying with me or trying to make fun of me because I was too tired and sleepy from today's activity to think. Would you just cut to the chase? If you are just calling me to bother or annoy me, I'm just going to hang up. Unable to hide my anger due to my unbearable drowsiness, I raised my voice. To that she replied, Stop being angry. Sheesh. Take it easy. Ashley just continued to talk after that, which just surprised me, and my sleepiness was just gone. I strongly told her no, but she didn't listen.
I actually arrived at your house now.
My sister-in-law just told me that she came over to our house for the barbecue as planned.
What?
While I was at a loss for words, my phone was already showing me that her hiking group members had already arrived and entered the backyard on their own and were beginning to prepare for the barbecue. I told you no, didn't I? My increasingly loud voice woke up Jeff, who was sleeping next to me, wondering who I was talking on the phone with. When I told Jeff that it was his sister calling again, Jeff took the phone out from my hands, saying that he will tell her off. Seeing how Jeff was angry on the phone with Ashley, I was sure and relieved that my sister-in-law would withdraw and go home. But the next day afternoon, I received another call from my sister-in-law. I wondered what she has done this time and picked up the phone to find her saying,
Hey, Carol. Something unexpected happened.
When she said that, I thought that she always only does unexpected things. But I said, What is it? What is the unexpected thing that happened? I wondered how thick she is because even after Jeff was furious and told her off, she still seems that she hasn't learned her lesson of it yet. When I heard Ashley's response, it made me realize that she's a really thick person who did not get our point.
Sorry, I burnt it down.
With laughing, she answered. So to that, I said, Huh? What did you burn down? I asked what it was. Then she said,
All the trees in the backyard and part of the house.
She said this as if she was not the one who was responsible, so I replied, What? What? Which backyard and which house? I thought it couldn't be, but she replied,
Don't pretend you don't know. Of course, it's your house and your backyard, silly. We called the ambulance and caused some trouble to your neighbors, so when you're back from your overseas training, please apologize and send them your regards.
This is the worst answer I could ever get. What? What were you thinking? Jeff told you no and to go home, didn't he? That middle of the night when Ashley called, Jeff told her off, but no words seemed to have reached her ears and brain. After that, she began to talk endlessly, making excuses, and also started to say something that did not make any sense to Jeff and I. I switched to speaker halfway through and asked Jeff, who was standing nearby, to listen as well. After we hung up the phone that night, instead of leaving, my sister-in-law and her husband had enjoyed the barbecue with the uninvited hiking group members, and then took advantage of our absence and set up their tents and pretended as if they were actually up in the mountain camping and enjoyed that. To add to the pretend camping situation, they made fire for the barbecue and made a small bonfire. Barbecue at our backyard alone would have been burden to the neighbors, but to have a bonfire is insane. As the night went on, the wind picked up, and the flames of the bonfire quickly spread to the lawn and trees in the area, and even scorched part of the house. Jeff and I had been listening to what Ashley was explaining with indescribable feelings, but then we both looked at each other when we realized there was something wrong with this story. The next thing Ashley said made us realize this.
The soot-covered garden stones was saved, but the rest of the house was burnt down.
We don't have any garden stones in our backyard. Actually, we don't have any garden stones in our backyard. To that, Ashley sounded surprised.
What? No way. Your backyard has these cool trees with wiggly branches and a little pond with frog and gnome statues around and some other cool nature things. Jeff, who was listening along with me, said,
We don't have any of those in our backyard.
Jeff reassured Ashley that this was not our backyard. As if she saw a ghost, Ashley said,
What?
To Ashley, who couldn't understand the situation, I said, Ashley, are you sure that this is our house? I asked her again. As in panic, my sister-in-law explained in details about the surroundings. As we listened to her detailed explanation, Jeff and I came to a conclusion. We wondered if it might be the house next door and not ours. Yes, the house next to ours is my grandfather's house, who runs a landscape gardening business. Ashley, I think that's my grandfather's house. When I told her this, she said,
What? How could this be possible? This is not your house?
She seemed surprised for a moment, but then said,
Well, I'll buy some plants from a dollar store and plant them for your grandfather later. They say plants grow better after a wildfire, and things will be back to normal in no time. I'll paint the burned parts of the house too. And when you return from your overseas training, will you apologize to your grandfather?
She had no sense of guilt at all, even though this incident could have resulted in a major incident. As usual, my sister-in-law tried to get away with it, forcing me to clean up her mess she made. Ashley, we have been cleaning up your mess, but this time, I won't be wiping your ass for you. For once, you should clean up after your own mess. To this, Jeff continued,
Hey, Ashley! I can't believe you would do such thing. This time, we are definitely not helping you clean up your mess, so you better do something about it.
You guys are overreacting. It was just some small damage.
While she scoffed it off, the next instance, she let out a terrified cry. From the distance, I heard what sounded like a police siren, and the call was cut off. Then, I got a call from my grandfather, who owns the landscape gardening business. On the other end of the phone, I could hear screams and the sound of a police car, probably belonging to my sister-in-law and her husband. I immediately guessed that the call from my grandfather was about the incident Ashley and Max had caused. Grandfather told me that up until Ashley and Max called for fire truck, things were going good, but then, when the fire trucks arrived, Ashley and Max began packing up their belongings and ditched the place and just evacuated without helping other people. How irresponsible they were. Ashley was his sister, so Jeff apologized to my grandfather over the phone many times. Even after the fire was put out, Ashley and Max stayed hidden for a while and finally came back to visit after my grandfather already submitted the security camera footage to the police. Then, that's when she was seized by the police while she was talking and laughing to me on the phone. When they were interrogated by the police, Ashley and Max said our name, so my grandfather called me to confirm if I knew them or not. My grandfather said,
Since they say they are your sister and brother-in-law, I didn't know what to do with them.
But then he told us that he was going to sue them for attempted arson and trespassing. Even though they are Jeff and I's relatives, Grandfather said,
I have no intention of dropping the case at all because this is too malicious.
To what Grandfather said, Jeff and I replied, I think that's reasonable. Considering what they have done in the past, their behavior this time, and the total amount of damage and mess they have made. Most of the garden stones and trees in my grandfather's garden were his landscape gardening products. Many of the contractors are of historic origins, and the trees and stones they deal with are worth millions of dollars each if they were auctioned off. The total value of what was in his backyard alone was several of $1 million. The walls which they burnt down were walls created and painted by special craftsmen, and the cost of construction of my grandfather's house is definitely not cheap at all. Since Ashley and Max didn't listen to us, and being reckless and burnt down the property, my grandfather was very upset with them. As Jeff and I returned from the overseas training, Jeff's parents came to visit us, wanting to apologize to my grandfather. After hearing all the past troubles that Ashley and Max caused us, they were really upset with Ashley and Max. They said, I am too embarrassed to call Ashley as my daughter. She is insane. We only have a son, they said in such anger. Jeff's parents made a contract to my grandfather that Ashley and Max will pay for all the damages they have caused. And my parents-in-law also told my grandfather that they would disown Ashley and Max, and that my grandfather can do anything with them as my grandfather pleases. After some time at the police station, Ashley and Max came back as ex-convicts, and they were both fired from their work. Not only did they have no way to pay back what my grandfather had demanded, but their parents had also disowned them, leaving them with no place to return to. Along with the fire they have caused, they themselves seems like they were burnt down with the fire. How long had it been since then? I don't know where they were or what they were doing, but recently, a small shack stood in the corner of my grandfather's backyard, and there they were, Ashley and Max. As what Jeff's parents told him, my grandfather is doing whatever he wants with them. My grandfather deducted from their salary to repay for the damages Ashley and Max caused, and making them work as a garden stone hauler without any pay. It seems that my strict, stubborn grandfather is very devoted to correct Ashley and Max's behavior and attitude every day, that under the scorching sun, my grandfather made them carry heavy stones and scold them. Since I see them like this, I have been thinking that this was a good lesson for me to know that if I can't take any responsibility for my own actions, karma will come around and make me pay for all of the responsibilities I should have taken.